The Black Friday BOGO sale is here at All Family Pharmacy. And let me tell you, this is the kind of deal that actually matters. From November 24th through December 2nd, when you buy one ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, or mebendazole, you get another one absolutely free. So at a time when Americans are tired of being lectured and restricted by bureaucrats, this is your chance to be prepared on your terms. No politics, no gatekeepers. Just real options that put you in control. Here's how simple it is. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone. Place your order online and a licensed physician reviews it immediately. Once approved, your medication ships straight to your door. Fast, private, and secure. This Black Friday event lasts only 1 week and supplies are limited. So when the inventory is gone, that's it. No extensions, no second chances. Just like every other real deal worth talking about seriously. If you want to stay ready, stay protected, and stay independent, go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone before December 2nd and lock in your Black Friday BOGO deal. Take control of your health. Stay prepared and stay free.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Vertuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Vertuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome into the Stone Zone and happy Thanksgiving. Because I am half Italian and half Hungarian, I'm Italian from the waist down, we celebrate Thanksgiving a little differently in our home because I'm proud of my Italian-American heritage. Our first course is a hearty bolognese sauce, which we refer to as Sunday gravy, 1/3 pork, 1/3 veal, 1/3 beef, San Marzano tomatoes. San Marzano is not a brand. It is a type, a style of tomato that is grown in a certain valley in Italy. You can find it at Gristedes or any fine supermarket, but be very careful on the label. If it says San Marzano style tomatoes, well, then that's a fugazi. You want real San Marzano tomatoes. Again, not a brand. Several different brands do import them. But, of course, we also have the Italian sausage, the meatballs, the braciole. We're going to be serving it over rigatoni. That's our first course. And then we move on to the traditional turkey, stuffing, bread stuffing. My mother used to make this great French stuffing, which was done with potatoes, beef, onions, and garlic. Unfortunately, it's a recipe that I've lost and that my sisters are also unable to find, but we're still looking for it. Of course, we have the mashed potatoes, the turnips, the green peas, all of the traditional fixings. It's all making my mouth water, but, well, I don't get any dinner until after the show. Thanksgiving is really the holiday that made other American holidays possible. As you see, if it's not for the Pilgrims having courage, absolute faith in their cause and calling, and the willingness to sacrifice and risk everything, they never would have attempted to cross a vast ocean on the 94-foot Mayflower, a ship of questionable seaworthiness to begin with. The Thanksgiving holiday, which commemorates one part of the Pilgrim story, remains the favorite holiday for many Americans like myself, and for good reasons, beyond just enjoying the upcoming feast. With our country passing through troubled times, it's worth revisiting the Pilgrims' 5 significant achievements which created the seminal story of America and reveal the remarkable insight into who we are and the qualities of character we need to overcome our present challenges. You see, first of many of the settlers who came to America, only the Pilgrims were singularly motivated by a spiritual quest for religious freedom, one that had its origin in the Protestant Reformation a century before. William Bradford, the longest-serving governor of Plymouth Colony and author of Plymouth Plantation, which was written between 1630 and 1651, repeatedly framed the Pilgrim's voyage and settlement in inexplicably biblical terms, drawing direct parallels to the Israelites' exodus from Egypt to the Promised Land. Thus, both American Christians and Jews find profound meaning in the Pilgrim's Thanksgiving story. After a harrowing passage across the Atlantic, one that included wild pitching and broadside batterings by gale-force winds and ferocious seas that caused the splitting of the ship's main beam, the Mayflower was blown off course from arriving at the territory assigned by the London-based sponsoring Virginia Company to a territory that is now northern New Jersey, making landfall on the barren shores of Cape Cod rather than the planned for New Jersey. The Pilgrims knew not where they were nor how to proceed. So they prayed to the Lord for help to find more suitable land with fresh water and fertile soil to establish a new and independent settlement. Now, after a frightening voyage and facing hunger from spoiled and depleted provisions and anxious about settling outside the purview of the Virginia Company's known charted territory, the secular Mayflower passengers were restless and some of them were insolent. And this is where the Pilgrims accomplished their second major achievement that would shape the future of America. Pilgrim leaders John Carver, William Bradford, and William Brewster recognized that Mayflower's passengers, diverse as they were, needed to maintain unities to survive in a potentially inhospitable environment. So off the Cape Cod coast, they drafted a governing agreement that would be acceptable both to their Christian brethren and also to the secular crew members and merchant adventurers who made up about half of the 102 people aboard the Mayflower. That governing document, known as the Mayflower Compact, provided for peace, security, equality, and democratic decision-making for everyone in their new anticipated settlement. With every man aboard signing the Mayflower Compact, the Pilgrims established the foundation for democratic self-government based on the will of the people for the first time in this hemisphere. And so it was that the Mayflower Compact laid the cornerstone for the U.S. Constitution, which would be drafted and adopted some 170 years later. Although the Pilgrims all survived the squalid and cramped ship quarters during their dangerous crossing of a vast ocean, their fate changed once they found suitable land for settlement, which they called, initially, New Plymouth. That was in December of 1620. The first winter was frigid and devastating, with illness afflicting most, and over half the Pilgrims actually died, including the 4 entire families. But it could actually have been worse. The fate of the Pilgrim colonists would surely not have been difficult had they not settled where they did, adjacent to friendly natives, the Pocahontas Indians, who were part of the Wampanoag tribe, still in Massachusetts, led by their chief, Massasoit. And it seems providential that there were 2 Indians who could speak English from prior interactions with the British. They were Squanto and Samoset, without who perhaps none of them would have survived. Squanto and his fellow native tribesmen could teach the Pilgrims survival skills, showing them how to hunt, fish, and plant various crops such as corn, squash, and varieties of beans, which were heretofore completely unknown to the Englishmen. Then there was the Pilgrims' third major achievement. That was the Pilgrim-Wampanoag peace treaty, made possible by Squanto, the Indian, and who played a crucial role as translator in what was the first successful negotiation and maintenance of the peace. The treaty was signed on April 1st of 1621 by Massasoit and leaders of the Plymouth colony. That treaty between Native Americans and the settlers would last more than 50 years, longer than any peace treaty between subsequent colonists and Indian tribes that inhabited other territories that would only later become part of the United States. So despite learning from the natives how to plant, cultivate, and harvest new crops in their first year, the Pilgrims complied with their sponsoring Virginia Company charter that called for settlement farmland to be owned and worked communally and for harvest to be equally shared. This socialist common property approach created disincentives for some to work. William Bradford recorded in his memoirs that while, quote, slackers showed up late for work, everybody was happy to claim their fair share, and production only therefore shrank. Although no one is certain of the exact date of the first Thanksgiving, we do know it was a Pilgrim initiative celebrated in November of 1621 to give thanks to God for their survival and having lost so many during the first winter in Plymouth, and for the first harvest, meager though it was. When Massasoit, the Indian leader, was invited to join the Pilgrims, it was assumed he would not bring more guests than the 50-odd Mayflower survivor hosts, but he arrived with twice that number, but they were also bringing food, fowl, and game of all kinds, including 5 deer and, of course, turkeys. There was more than enough for everybody, enabling the first Thanksgiving celebration to last 3 full days, punctuated by Indian songs, games, and dance, pilgrim prayers, and even a military-style parade by Miles Standish. The only thing missing was the rigatoni bolognese. The Pilgrims' fourth major achievement was the rejection of socialism and the adoption of private enterprise. After the meager Thanksgiving harvest, the second season of collective farming and distribution proved equally disappointing. You see, Governor Bradford had seen enough, recording that the system was found to breed much confusion and discontent and retard much employment that would have been of great benefit and comfort to all. So before the 1623 season, he scrapped socialism farming and replaced it with private ownership of land for each of the families. As a result of becoming responsible for their own welfare and gaining freedom to choose what to grow for consumption or trade, the Pilgrims' productivity actually surged. The fifth factor distinguishing the Pilgrims was their model relational behavior. While tolerance enabled them to keep relative harmony within their diverse community, they also looked outwardly to serve and help others. In the March of 1623, it came to be known that Massasoit was on the brink of death from an unknown illness. Senior Pilgrim elder William Winslow immediately set out on foot for some 40 miles to administer medicinal broth, natural herbs, and prayers for the Indian leader. Astonishingly, upon making a full recovery within 3 days, Massasoit remarked, "Now I see the English are my friends and love me, and whilst I live, I will never forget this kindness that they have shown me." So in summary, the Pilgrims' 5 achievements and the qualities of character that make them exemplary are needed now more than ever today. In addition to gratitude, a contemporary Thanksgiving makeover might include rekindling a quest for adventure, developing the faith to hold on to a vision of a promised land, no matter what, mustering the courage to go against the crowd and defend the truth, being willing to endure hardship and defer immediate gratification, revitalizing respect for and tolerance of people of different beliefs, and reviewing the disposition to extend appreciation, love, and assistance at every appropriate opportunity. I'm very thankful this Thanksgiving because, well, my wife has survived very aggressive stage 4 cancer. I'm happy to tell you that based on her most recent tests, she is 4 years cancer-free. Thank you, Jesus. I'm also grateful for my own freedom because, of course, I was targeted in the Russian collusion hoax. And thanks to my prayers, my fervent prayers, the Lord allowed President Donald Trump to see that I was a victim, not the perpetrator of a crime. And that is why I'm free to join you today. I ask all of you to join me in praying for those brave Army National Guardsmen shot yesterday in the District of Columbia. And we'll be back with more discussion of the Thanksgiving traditions of America on the other side. So whatever you do, Please stay with us right here in the Stone Zone on the Red Apple Audio Networks, and we'll be back with more.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I really appreciate those kind words from Vice President J.D. Vance, and I thank you for spending your Thanksgiving holiday with us here in the Stone Zone. As we celebrate the quintessential American holiday, let's go back through time and examine how former presidents have commemorated this day, going back to our nation's founding. President George Washington, a man who could have been king but decided instead to be president and limit his own power, issued the first national Thanksgiving proclamation in 1789, marking the holiday with solemn gratitude and civic reflection. He celebrated quietly with family and religious observance. Then there was President John Adams. He continued issuing proclamations, treating Thanksgiving as a day of prayer and humility. Celebrations, however, continued to remain private and Puritan-influenced. Thomas Jefferson refused to issue Thanksgiving proclamations, viewing them as an unconstitutional fusion of church and state. Celebrated privately reflected early debates about the holiday's form. Then when there was President James Madison, he occasionally issued Thanksgiving proclamations during wartime, but he viewed them very cautiously. His observance, again, remained understated, but still religious. James Monroe did not ever formally proclaim Thanksgiving. The holidays were still, at that point, regional and largely inconsistent. Celebrations were mostly private family gatherings. John Quincy Adams supported New England's Thanksgiving customs, but never issued any formal national proclamation. His family's dinners reflected the traditional New England fare. Andrew Jackson, one of my favorite presidents, took no federal action on Thanksgiving, but enjoyed large private feasts typical of Southern households. The holidays were still not standardized nationally. Then President Martin Van Buren, he didn't formalize the holiday either, but joined regional celebrations as they spread. He marked the day informally with his family. William Henry Harrison left no Thanksgiving legacy to speak of, well, because he just wasn't president very long. And then President John Tyler celebrated Thanksgiving privately, while some states adopted it unofficially. President James K. Polk observed Thanksgiving as it grew in northern states, but still no national proclamations. His successor, President Zachary Taylor, a military man, was known for military-style simplicity and private observance. The company still remained regional during his presidency. Then, of course, there was Millard Fillmore. He supported state-level Thanksgiving proclamations. Family celebrations aligned with rising Victoria-era domestic traditions. Franklin Pierce, our only bachelor president, also kept Thanksgiving largely private and personal, but he still didn't push for national recognition. When we come back to the Stone Zone, we'll continue with this rundown of how American presidents have treated Thanksgiving, which we celebrate today. If you're listening to the Stone Zone and I'm Roger Stone, stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone as we continue our rundown of how American presidents have treated Thanksgiving. We left off with President Franklin Pierce, but he was followed by President James Buchanan. He celebrated modestly as the northern states expanded formal recognition of the holiday, but there was still no federal proclamation. And then finally, Abraham Lincoln established Thanksgiving as an annual national holiday in 1863 to foster unity in the country during the Civil War. This marked the day was marked, I should say, with reflection, charity, and public purpose. Andrew Johnson, who continued Lincoln's national tradition and framed Thanksgiving as a symbol of national healing. His proclamations were cemented its annual status. He was followed by General Ulysses S. Grant, who reinforced Thanksgiving as a stable national observance, once again celebrated with formal dinners and public messaging on reconciliation after the Civil War. President Rutherford B. Hayes held family-centered celebrations and emphasized gratitude with Reconstruction. He helped normalize the holiday nationally, finally, thanks to Lincoln, a federal holiday. James Garfield had a short presidency, but issued a proclamation highlighting peace and prosperity, continuing the new national custom of Thanksgiving. He was followed by President Chester A. Arthur, who had been the receiver of the Port of New York, rising to the presidency only after the assassination of James Garfield. He issued a Thanksgiving proclamation encouraging charity. He celebrated with an elegant White House dinner that were more typical of the Gilded Age. Grover Cleveland, the only president to serve a term, lose a disputed re-election, and return as president, other than Donald J. Trump, promoted the holidays as a time for national gratitude and family. His 2 non-consecutive terms helped solidify Thanksgiving's cultural place in our history, followed by President Benjamin Harrison, who encouraged Americans to consider the less fortunate, reflecting the rising social gospel themes. He observed Thanksgiving again with a formal White House dinner. Followed by President William McKinley, who celebrated with patriotic overtones during America's imperial era. The Thanksgiving proclamation stressed national strength and purpose. Then, of course, Theodore Roosevelt held large family feasts and emphasized outdoor recreation as well as civic virtue. Thanksgiving became more public and more spirited during his presidency. William Howard Taft enjoyed robust family dinners and humorously spoke publicly about overeating. He was, of course, our largest and fattest president. Woodrow Wilson, perhaps our worst president, celebrated quietly, especially during World War I, when he emphasized sacrifice and service. It was at this time when Thanksgiving began adopting themes of wartime unity. President Warren Harding used the day to encourage national recovery after World War I. He once again observed traditional meals in a more modest ceremony. Calvin Coolidge, Silent Cal as he was known, celebrated simply, reflecting his frugal nature. He was the first to accept a live turkey sent to the White House, an early precursor to the turkey pardon custom. My favorite story about Calvin Coolidge is a woman came up to Calvin Coolidge and said, "I bet my girlfriend that I could get you to say more than 3 words." And Silent Cal said, "You lose." Herbert Hoover marked Thanksgiving during the Great Depression with messages of resilience. His dinners were modest, given the fact that we were in the middle of a national depression and hardship. It was President Franklin D. Roosevelt who moved Thanksgiving earlier to lengthen the Christmas shopping season. At the time, they called it Franksgiving after President FDR. He expanded the holiday's commercial and public role. Peppery Harry S. Truman formalized receiving a Christmas turkey and occasionally hinting at sparing it, laying the groundwork for the modern pardon of the turkey. President Truman celebrated with patriotic messages during post-war recovery. Dwight D. Eisenhower, very underrated, perhaps one of the greatest presidents in American history, but so low-key that people didn't recognize the peace and prosperity that we had under Ike. He emphasized family, unity, and Cold War optimism. Thanksgiving became firmly part of televised American culture. It was, of course, President Dwight D. Eisenhower who, as he was leaving, warned us about the encroaching power of the military-industrial complex that we would later know as the Deep State. Then President John F. Kennedy, our first Catholic president, made the first modern non-pardon statement, noting Americans shouldn't be hard-hearted to their turkey. His style modernized the holiday's tone, followed by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, perhaps the most corrupt president in American history. And given recent years, that says a lot. He used Thanksgiving proclamations to discuss poverty and civil rights, which was ironic in view of the fact that in the Senate he'd been a lifelong segregationist. But he celebrated with large Texas-style meals. President Richard Nixon, the president I knew best, often spent Thanksgiving at Thanks David. Observances were much quieter and low-key due to the Vietnam War and because of the political tension in the country. And then, of course, his successor, President Gerald Ford, promoted national healing after Watergate in his Thanksgiving proclamations. He once again hosted traditional family dinners and charity-focused events. Jimmy Carter celebrated modestly and highlighted humanitarian themes. Thanksgiving began to include more public volunteerism. Ronald Reagan popularized the cheerful, photo-friendly turkey event, although it was still not yet called a pardon, but Thanksgiving finally became a major media moment. It was George H.W. Bush who built on the efforts of Reagan, Coolidge, and Kennedy to establish the formal presidential turkey pardon in 1989, celebrated with messages of global peace after the Cold War. President Bill Clinton emphasized community service and held public volunteer events. The turkey pardon now became annual and nationally televised. George W. Bush used Thanksgiving to honor troops, often visiting military bases. The holiday took on a strong post-11 patriotic tone under George W. Barack Obama expanded service themes and began to make a mockery of the turkey pardon ceremony, which was part of his overall agenda, in my opinion, to cheapen and demean all American culture as a foreign usurper. President Donald Trump made the turkey pardon a major media event and highlighted economic accomplishments in his proclamations. Thanksgivings remained highly publicized with zero reservations about celebrating our colonial past under Donald Trump in his first term. Joe Biden centered the holiday on unity and healing. At least that's what we think he was trying to say, although if you go back at the word salad, it's a little hard to tell. And of course, earlier today, President Donald Trump called on all Americans to pray for our nation on this Thanksgiving holiday. So as we referenced briefly while giving you this rundown of the various presidents and their Thanksgiving celebrations, the pardoning of the turkey has become a part of American lore. Oftentimes, it's attributed to President George H.W. Bush, but that is somewhat incorrect. Bush actually simply built on a long-standing tradition, you see. The original turkey pardon was done by President Abraham Lincoln. Honest Abe had declared Thanksgiving a national holiday amidst the Civil War, and in the spirit of bringing the nation together during its darkest hours. So, further demonstrate mercy to a still fragile republic, Honest Abe spared a turkey who his son Tad had reportedly grown attached to. And thus the lore of the presidential turkey pardon began there. Then, in 1932, President Franklin D. Roosevelt received a turkey from the Institute of Poultry Industries, which he opted not to take. It instead went to a children's hospital in Georgia, not quite giving it a pardon, but sparing it. President John F. Kennedy, 3 days before his assassination, spared a turkey by saying, "Let's keep him going," and sending a 55-pound bird back to the farm instead of slaughtering it for dinner. Presidents Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan both spared turkeys as well as during their tenures of office, although it had not become a formalized tradition quite yet. Reagan was the first president to coin the term pardon when referencing the turkey, vernacular which therefore stuck. Then George H.W. Bush, that's Bush Sr., hoping to cling to the likelihood factor of Reagan, made the turkey pardon an official ceremony as he hoped to endear himself to the American people. That was not incredibly successful for President Bush, as the New World Order proponents was the rare one-term president, failing to win re-election, something I predicted at the time, was admonished by many Republicans about it, but he did formalize the turkey pardon and the annual tradition that will live on throughout the annals of time. But Bush Sr. should never be credited as its creator, as better presidents through our history actually are the ones who deserve that honor. And then, of course, in his classic trolling style, President Donald Trump repardoned the turkeys who were pardoned by President Joe Biden last year, saying earlier today that the auto pen may have been used by Biden to pardon those turkeys, and President Trump wanted to make sure that those pardons were valid. President Trump said, "So I have the official duty to determine, and I have determined, that last year's turkey pardons were totally invalid, as the turkeys of about every other person that was pardoned were signed with an auto pen. The turkeys, known as Peach and Blossom last year, have therefore been located, and they were actually on their way to be processed, in other words, to be killed. But I have stopped that journey, and I am officially pardoning them, and they will not be served this Thanksgiving." Gotta love Donald Trump. The guy's sense of humor is beyond belief. Additionally, the turkey pardoning this year was named Gobble and Waddle, and President Trump said he wanted to name them after Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, but then quickly reconsidered for the understandable reasons. President Trump said the turkeys being pardoned today go by the names Gobble and Waddle. When I first saw their pictures, I was going to call them Chuck and Nancy, but then I realized I wouldn't be pardoning them, as I would never pardon those two. Donald Trump always tells you what he really thinks. We should give thanks to a president who's adept at kind of trolling the media and the political elites and making a mockery of those two globalists who wish to be taken serious as our overlords. But one of the things that I'm thankful for are the lower prices during this Thanksgiving. Another sign that President Trump's economic plans are actually working. The price for a Thanksgiving meal today is lower than it has been in the last 4 years, and gas prices are also nearing 4-year lows. The American Farm Bureau found that the classic American Thanksgiving dinner for 10 people will now cost an average of $55.18, which is down 5% from 1 year ago. Throughout the Biden presidency, the cost of a Thanksgiving meal surged 14% in the first year of 2021, up to $53.31, which was a record high for Thanksgiving dinner. The price then jumped another 20% the following year of Biden's presidency to $64.05. But by the time Biden left office, prices for Thanksgiving had risen by 24% overall. Additionally, the national gas average was $3.05 as of Tuesday, the lowest number recorded since the COVID-19 pandemic put a majority of drivers off the road. This has come as a result of the precipitous drop in the cost of crude oil, which has become 17% cheaper during August of last year. The national average reached an insane $5.16 per gallon of gas in June of 2022. So it's clear, despite the media noise and Democrat spin, President Trump's policies are helping the American families and the masses see how much they're saving during this Thanksgiving holiday. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone, and we've got more on this Thanksgiving, so please don't touch that dial.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone. I so give thanks for those words of praise from Vice President J.D. Vance. Well, the Thanksgiving holiday travel this year shattered all previous records. In 2025 was the previous record, with estimates this year of some 81.8 million Americans leaving home to travel over 50 miles as part of their festivities. According to predictions from the American Auto Association, 73.3 million Americans will travel more than 50 miles on the roads, while another 6.6 million will take domestic flights, and another 2.5 million will travel by train or other means, such as bus, to spend time with friends or family over the Thanksgiving season. This is an increase of 2% from last year and a 5.2% increase from 2019. The vice president of the AAA Travel, Stacy Barber, said Thanksgiving travel numbers are always impressive because this holiday has become synonymous with heading out of town to spend time with loved ones. People are willing to brave crowds and make last-minute adjustments to their plans to make lifelong memories, whether it's visiting extended family or meeting up with friends. The numbers show that the globalists plan to break our spirits, divide our communities, and atomize and isolate us from others have been largely unsuccessful. They put us through psychological terror through the COVID pandemic, and it worked for a while, but the public has snapped out of it. I sense a new desire to communicate and contact their loved ones and to bridge potential divides to be as near as other Americans as possible. To me, that's what Thanksgiving is all about, and we hope that you enjoyed this holiday as we did. We hope your travel plans are not thwarted due to Thanksgiving snowfall. This year's Thanksgiving demonstrated unreasonably frigid weather in the northeastern United States. Meteorologist Ben Knoll wrote earlier today, for parts of the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Michigan, Thanksgiving snow depth this year could be greater than more than a decade. Up to 2 feet of snow could fall today in the upper peninsula of Michigan and northern Wisconsin as strong winds cause blizzard-like conditions. Thanksgiving was anticipated to be the snowiest in more than 25 years by meteorologists. So much for the global warming, huh? Nevertheless, there was never a better time to be inside, watch football, eat delicious food, including some nice rigatoni, enjoying precious times with friends and family than today's frigid Thanksgiving. Make sure to drive home safely today and stay secure, as we love all of you Stone Zone listeners. We're here 5 days a week in the fight to save America, and, we'll be with you tomorrow as always. I do have to question whether AI is ruining Thanksgiving. Did something seem a bit off during your Thanksgiving dinner today or tonight? Were the dishes not as cohesive as usual? Did you find some bizarre taste notes in some otherwise holiday classics? If you answered yes to any of this, the culprit could be AI. There's an influx of AI-generated content in the food blocking community with fake images designed to make people feel that what they're reading is authentic. Much of this content has been geared around providing the greatest and tastiest Thanksgiving dinners in recent weeks. So on this Thanksgiving, we have much to be thankful for. In my case, as I said earlier, I am thankful for my wife's full and complete recovery from aggressive stage 4 cancer, but I'm particularly thankful to the Lord for my freedom, for the pardon that President Trump gave me when he recognized that I was targeted in the Russian collusion hoax. And now I pray that those who tried to destroy President Donald Trump, great patriots like General Michael Flynn and myself and our families, are held accountable and that they see justice. That's what I pray for on this Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
The Black Friday BOGO sale is here at All Family Pharmacy, and let me tell you, this is the kind of deal that actually matters. From November 24th through December 2nd, when you buy one ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, or mebendazole, you get another one absolutely free. So at a time when Americans are tired of being lectured and restricted by bureaucrats, this is your chance to be prepared on your terms. No politics, no gatekeepers, just real options that put you in control. Here's how simple it is. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone. Place your order online and a licensed physician reviews it immediately. Once approved, your medication ships straight to your door, fast, private, and secure. This Black Friday event lasts only 1 week and supplies are limited. So when the inventory is gone, that's it. No extensions, no second chances. Just like every other real deal worth talking about seriously. If you want to stay ready, stay protected, and stay independent, go to allfamilypharmacy.com/stone before December 2nd and lock in your Black Friday BOGO deal. Take control of your health, stay prepared, and stay free.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.